Hi, welcome to the Simply Slay Life podcast. I'm Rochelle. And of course, on my channel, we talk about Black women thriving and living their best lives. And in today's episode of the Simply Slay Life podcast, I invited my very special guest. She was a lifesaver to me. And I wanted to introduce her to you guys. It's Yvonne Pavan. She's the general manager of Host Relocation Mexico. She's the person that literally walked me through and held my hand for me to do my immigration process from beginning to end. We talked a lot on WhatsApp before I even got to Mexico to tell me how the process and stuff was going to go. And so I'm very honored to have her here, that she took time out of her busy schedule to even be here to have this conversation with me because as I was stating to y'all in previous videos, anything that I share about what I'm doing to try to move abroad in any way that I can help you start the process to do those things, I put it out there for you to share. And so when she made the process so easy and just it took a lot of the weight off of me, I said, this is the person I have to share this with. This is the person. This is who I need on here. So again, I want to introduce you to Yvonne, and I'm going to let you go ahead and formally introduce yourself. And again, I thank you for coming and talking with me.
Thank you so much, Rochelle, for inviting me to this channel, to this video. It's an honor to be here, especially to share with the audience how to get the residency done in Mexico. Basically, just to make a dream come true.
It took a lot of weight off of my shoulders that I was like, oh, what am I going to do? How do I do this? And I was like, I need help. I was just like, I need help. And I was actually looking at somebody else's YouTube and they had your information. And I said, well, let me contact her. That's who I'm going to go through then. And if I tell you guys, she is the nicest person and she was so patient with me. And I tennis across the board. That the minute I came back, even when the day that I got my residency card, I was on WhatsApp and on my phone calling all my friends and family. I tell them, this is the person. She made it seem so easily and so easy, and I didn't have any issues. And she rest assured me that I was like that everything was going to be okay. And I'm all about making stuff simple, easy, and we're okay. And so I wanted to first talk to you about, you know, what normally, if someone is trying to gain residency in Mexico, what are some of the things, what is the initial process to even get to that point where they're going into Mexico to do their residency? And we'll start with that one and then I'll come back with what are the type of residencies they can apply for.
Okay, first of all, the process as somebody may think that it can be done in within Mexico because I have had this question very often, like, oh, I'm in Mexico. I have been on a tourist visa. How can I get my residency? Unfortunately, you cannot get it here. Well, there's different type of visas. The We can talk at the same time. It's temporary and permanent.
Okay.
So you can get it according to different situations in your life. Why I'm telling you that you cannot get it here unless you are married with a Mexican citizen or you have a Mexican children. The other ways you need to do it abroad. You need to start in your home country, getting an appointment at a Mexican consulate in your home country or your country of residence, and then you need to make an interview. Getting an appointment, it's taking time and it takes patience, as you know, Rochelle. You need to be very persistent. It's not because it's hard, it's because they take time on replying your email or using their website. It's also takes time, but you need to be very persistent. It's not hard. It's just time of patience and persistence. You need to start with the appointment and showing your economic solvency. That's the main way to get a Mexican residency. That's why if you're here as a tourist, regular tourist, you cannot get here the Mexican residency. It's like I have been in the US for tourists. How can I get my green card? It's like, you need to get a
Yeah,
process beforehand. It's not that easy, but it's
right.
also not complicated if you receive the proper guidance. So the first step by economic solvency, it's getting an appointment at the Mexican consulate in your home country. It doesn't matter where, you need to get an appointment. In that appointment, basically, is show economic solvency. Depending on your situation, if you're an employee for 6 months, if you're retired or freelancer, working nomad, you need to show 12 months and you need to show certain amount. Right now in 2025, I can tell that the average that the consulates requires all over the world is 4,500 USD a month, but it varies from consulate to consulate. That's also the challenge because your story can be different from another one's story. I don't know why the consulates has different requirements. Some of them can be 3,700, some of them can be 4,700, even in the same country in the US. So it's very important to start the process there. You cannot start it here unless you're married with a Mexican citizen or you have a Mexican children, but that's a different situation, I will say.
Okay. And I want to circle back to that because I got a lot of people, even when I got home, that were like, oh, well, my grandparents were born in Mexico. And I'm like, I said, I think that's citizenship, though. I was like, I don't know how. I said, I'm not familiar with it, but is that is that a process that could take place there too? Or is there a certain, does that have to be in Mexico or do they start that process here at the consulate too?
First of all, to have the dual citizenship needs to be
Hmm.
directly from parents. It doesn't need to, it can be done from grandparents. So
Oh,
if your
okay.
grandparents were Mexican, then one of your parents needs to have the dual citizenship or being Mexican, and then you can get it from your parents. It cannot be skipping one generation. That's the
Oh,
first
okay.
answer to your question. How it's going to be done? It can be done either in the US or in Mexico. How? Because you need to present the birth certificate of your parent, mother, or father to
Mhm.
the Mexican consulate if you're abroad, or in Mexico to Registro Civil. The challenge with this process is matching the names because when somebody lives in other countries, especially in the US, that you use only one last name, in Mexico we use two last names.
Right.
So if the certificate, the birth certificate of your mom and your dad have two last names,
Mhm.
but in the marriage certificate or in your birth certificate, it only has one last name, which is very, very often.
Yes.
It needs to do an extra process. So, in Mexico, Ivonne Pavan is not the
Mhm.
same like Ivonne Pavan Loza. That will be a different person. So the
Okay.
challenges will be like the names, but that will be like very particular cases.
Right.
So
Okay.
if somebody asks for grandparents, need to be mother or father, and then we can give detailed information later on.
Okay, no, that makes sense that they can't skip a generation then. So if the grandparent was born here, the parent had to say that they have dual citizenship. And then it goes
Exactly.
on to that child, to the grandchild then. Okay, so
Yeah,
that's understandable. They couldn't have made that break in there where it was the grandparent and then they came over here and got their citizenship and the parent just became an American citizen or the citizen of the country.
exactly.
Can't do it like that. Okay, because that was
And you
one of
need
the
to
big
get
questions I yeah.
exactly. Yeah, it's a lot of very often question, but I will say the challenge is getting all the documents all together. So it's hard,
Okay.
especially in Mexico that not everything was digitalized three
Hmm.
generations ago. It's challenge.
Okay. So now once they get to in Mexico after they've gone and visited the consulate and they go to the immigration office in Mexico, and they go through their process, could you explain that part of the process? to us as far as like what happens when they get to the immigration office with you? How does that work for that process to be completed?
Okay. So first, I want to go back a little bit from the
Mhm.
consulate. Once when somebody gets an appointment at the Mexican consulate, you will get a Mexican visa stamped in your passport. Well, not stamped, it's glued in one of the pages in your passport. So we need that to do the second part of the process because that's only the first part. The second part of the process here in Mexico, the facilitators can do everything for you. We need to do an online appointment with immigration. You need to uh, set up a travel dates in advance so we can prepare the online appointment. And we do all the paperwork for you. In some of the offices, they let us come in with you as a facilitator. Most of the offices in Mexico are adopting the rule of only the foreigner can go there and do their own application. But
Okay.
we take care of the online appointment, the paperwork, and of course, the explanation on what to expect and which questions they may ask you. And of course, having the right paperwork, because that's also another challenge here. If you made a light mistake in the paperwork, you can be not denied because it's not a denial. You need to they can tell you come back, make another appointment, fix this, and come back. So the challenge will be making another appointment because in some states the online system has been packed basically. There's a lot
Yes,
of demand on getting appointments. So some
yes,
of the systems, like for certain states, are packed. So it's a
yes.
challenge to get an appointment. And then just imagine you have 30 days to complete your application after you come here. So the first
Wow.
time you can have your appointment ready, but next time, if you have a mistake, you need to redo the appointment. And imagine if the appointment is 3 weeks later, more than 30 days. So that will be a risk. If
Yeah.
you don't start the application in within 30 days after you land in Mexico, you can lose the Mexican visa. So it is important just to have everything into place so it can be as smooth as possible for you.
Yeah. No, I know like when I have a consulate in my city. And so my city is Houston, Texas. Since October, I had been trying to get an appointment and they were so booked that they were the ones that said, "Have you tried McAllen or New Orleans?" And I drove to McAllen, which is 5 hours away, because I contacted them and was like, "Do y'all have any appointments?" And so to see if you end up being an error made on your paperwork or something, and you have to start the process all over again. And I had a hard time from October up until I finally got an appointment in McAllen in March. Every day I was trying to contact somebody and it wasn't. So that was one of the reasons why I was like, yeah, I got to get somebody to help me because I'm not starting this process all over again. So that was one
Exactly.
of the main things that I was like, I'm not doing this process as far as like trying to hunt down calling all day every day to see if something canceled is their appointment. And so that was what I was very happy about with y'all, that y'all, we met the day before. You went over everything with me. You wanted to make sure everything was right, the spelling, everything from, because I know that was one of the things too. You were like, make sure you check to make sure your name is right, it's spelled right, because those are things that you were like, that can send you back. And so I was like, oh, so
Exactly. Those
yeah,
light
so
mistakes can send you back home.
just because I send you back. So I was very, very pleased with that you took that time out to say, okay, we're going to meet the day before. We're going to go through everything. We're going to double check it, you know. And so that was one of the great things about y'all's company. That that was one of the things that I was like really impressed with. That they was like you were dotting I's and crossing T's and looking through everything with a fine tooth comb to make sure it was exactly the way it was supposed to be, and it matched up with my passport. So that was that took a big load off of my shoulders. My other thing was now from being a temporary resident to a permanent resident, what is the time frame that happens with that? Like, how long does it take for that whole process to go to where you become permanent, or even to the point where you can apply for citizenship if you choose to do that?
The law says that after 4 years of being a temporary resident, you can apply for permanent residency. So
Okay.
basically, due to timing, you need to do the first year by economic solvency. The first year is 1 year. The
Mm-hmm.
next one you can renew for 1, 2, or 3 years maximum. In
Mm-hmm.
total, you have been there a temporary residency holder for 4 years, and then you can apply for permanent residency. In the case of family unification, married with Mexicans,
Mm-hmm.
it is 2 years as a temporary, and then after 2 years, you can apply for permanent, of course, if you're still married. You need to pay 1 year, the next one another renewal, and then apply for permanent. In the three cases, three scenarios, they need to present the marriage certificate with the Mexican citizen. So if I have had the cases that they got divorced on the second year, if they want to apply for permanent residency, since they presented the marriage certificate as the reason of getting a residency, if they are divorced, they cannot become permanent or they cannot renew in the case.
Okay.
So, but if they have a Mexican children, they are permanent right away. That's another thing. If they have a Mexican child, they as soon as they register and get the Mexican passport of their baby, they will apply for permanent residency. Even
Oh,
though
wow.
they got divorced, their
Mm-hmm.
situation they're going to be always the mother or the father of the children. So they're always going to be permanent residents.
Okay. So for the person that like say me, and then so for me, it's the first year, and then I renew for my 3 year, and that's all under the
Exactly.
temporary residency. And then
Yes,
at the end of that, which is a total of four, I
correct.
can go ahead and go in and put in for my permanent residency at that
Yes,
point,
correct.
right?
Yeah,
But if I end up meeting somebody, marrying them over there, then I can, in that time, if it falls in the 2 year range, I can apply for permanent residency at that point in time. Or if I was
correct.
already married to a Mexican resident, do it that way. Or, well, I'm not
Yes,
having
exactly.
babies. I was like, I'm past the age for babies, but if that age, and I had babies that were born in Mexico, I
Correct.
automatically get my residency based off of once they get their passport or their birth certificate listed for Mexico, right?
Yes,
Okay, just make sure I
exactly.
got a clear understanding on that one. Um,
Yes.
and
So
so,
another
uh-huh.
question that is very common or very often in the emails I received is why
Mm,
is the main difference between temporary or permanent?
mm,
So the main difference is first, the permanent residency is considered a retirement visa. So they
mhm,
give it to people that is over 60 years old that are retired or not working anymore and that they have a higher amount of income. If I said that the average for temporary was around 4,500, more or less in all over the places, for permanent, they ask you around 7,000, for example. So you need to fulfill the three requirements: the age, the retirement part or not working, and the economic solvency. Because if you have two of them, still last year, some consulate says, oh, okay, you are retired, you have the income, but maybe you are 56 years old. Okay, they can give you the permanent residency. This year, the consulate has become more strict with their requirements,
mhm.
and they are not granting as easy as before. I will say almost zero if you don't fulfill the three requirements for the permanent residency. So that's the only way you can get it right there at the consulate. And the second thing, some people says, you know what, I want to drive my car in Mexico. I want to bring my car, even though I fulfill the three requirements and I can be permanent resident. I want to bring my car. If they are permanent residents, you cannot drive a foreign license plate because it will be considered as almost as a Mexican nationality, and the Mexicans cannot drive foreign license plated cars. So people has said, you know what, I want the temporary because I want to bring my car, and they have the right to keep it for 4 years. As soon as
Okay.
they become temporary, you can keep your car with a tip, a temporary import permit,
Okay.
and but as soon as you apply for permanent resident, you need to bring your car back to the US or Canada, sell it there, or nationalize the car. So
Okay.
nationalization of the car is a different story, but well, that's the option. So some people says I prefer the temporary, bring my car, or some people says just if I qualify for permanent, I just go straight for permanent. It depends on the criteria. But as
Okay.
rights, you can do the same thing as temporary and permanent. You can open a bank account, you can buy a car here, you can buy a house, you can open your own company here. So you have the same rights. The difference is that you can bring your foreign license plated car and you don't need to renew it like one time, then 3 years, and then the permanent. The permanent is right away.
Okay. So, and you touched on something which was one of the questions I was going to ask was about the ability to either open a business or work in Mexico, starting off as a temporary resident and moving forward. And even if that's something as a temporary resident, I'm able to open up a bank account there.
Yes,
So, okay.
exactly. Open up a bank account, buy a car, buy a house, open up a
Okay.
business.
Okay. Because that was one of the things that
Yes.
I was
And
like,
also,
"Huh, okay, go ahead."
exactly.
So yeah,
Yes,
no, that was one of
exactly.
the things that I was kind of like, is that something that, how do you do to be able to get a bank account? Because like here, we have to have a social, we have to have all these things to open up our account. How do you go about getting, or is that even the process for us to be able to have, or do we just take our resident card and take that to the bank there to show them?
One of the process or steps, extra steps that you need to make from 4 or 5 years ago, it's you need to get an RFC number. It's not like in the US or Canada that you have a social security and involves everything. Here in Mexico, we have different numbers for different things or for different applications. First of all, for example, CURP, CURP, it's a Mexican ID number that is given at the moment that you go to immigration to request your residency. So it's going to be on your resident card. With that
Okay.
number, we can get the rest of the numbers. So
Okay.
answering to your question, yeah, we need your resident card, you need the CURP number, and then an extra step is you need a tax ID number. So
Mhm.
that's a different application in a different department. It's called the tax department. And
Okay.
we need an appointment, also an online appointment. And we need to get that number. The same day you go to the appointment, you will get a page with your number on it there. So when you go to open a bank account, you need the RFC, you need the resident card and your passport, and also a utility bill. That's also important. You cannot open your bank account if you don't have a permanent address here.
Okay. And that's something that host relocation assists with once that you got your
Yeah,
residence and you got your
exactly.
location you're going to be staying at, they can help with getting those items set up for you. Now, in
Exactly.
regards to say if you're starting a business and is it the kind of like the same process? Do y'all assist with that about is there like here we have to have like you have to register the business, you have to go through and same thing, get a tax ID associated with the business. Um, and then from there have a business banking account. That's how they set it up here. Is that similar to that there?
It's similar. Yeah,
Okay.
we have to type of business, individual or companies.
Mm-hmm.
If it's individual, it's easier because it's your own business, like let's say consultants, doctors, um, therapies, it's your own business. You just need yourself. Your a bank account needs to be under your name, and
Okay.
everybody, your clients, need to deposit under that bank account. Yes.
Oh,
Or
okay.
you can open up a society. We call them persona moral. Let's say you're going to open a restaurant or you open up a therapy center with several therapies or a doctor center with several doctors. then you need a company. So yeah, we will have an RFC, the tax ID number as a company, and a bank account name, well, under the company's name. So
Okay.
yes, we can help you in both cases.
Okay, because that would make sense to me because then you're hiring on employees. And so to make sure that they have for their I guess for their version of Social Security that they're paying taxes into that. That's okay. Because I
Exactly.
was like, I'm following. I was just making sure I'm understanding. So that's why that one would differ from if I was just doing consulting by myself versus if
Exactly.
I was starting a restaurant or starting, a nursing facility, home health, something like that, because I'll have other people under me. Okay.
Exactly.
So,
Yes, and
okay,
also an important thing, if
mhm,
you receive a temporary residency, either economic solvency or by family unification, you cannot work in Mexico. What does that
right.
mean? Work in Mexico doesn't mean, for example, if somebody's working remotely from their job in the US, in the UK, in France, they work remotely, they pay them their salary in their foreign bank account. That doesn't mean working in Mexico. Working in Mexico means open up a company that the requirements we just spoke, or being hired by a company registered in Mexico. Example, you're here and you receive an offer from a Mexican company here, from an automotive company, and then you will need to have a permit to work. So that's the only two cases that you need permission to work. You cannot get a permission to work if you don't have a job offer yet. So,
Okay.
because I have that question very often, oh, I'm a temporary residency. Can you help me get the work permit? Yeah, we need first a job offer. We need
Ah,
first your company set up. We cannot request that unless the first thing is done. So first you need your job or your company, and then we can request a job offer. It
okay.
cannot be backwards.
Okay. So, like for example, if say for me and you, I'm gonna use us as an example. You say, "Oh, Rochelle, I want you to work for host relocation." Then you would put in for a work visa for me. But
Exactly.
up until then, I can't do anything unless a company offers me a job with them.
Correct.
And if I'm starting a company, then on my own, then I can say I need a work visa because I want to start a company up. That's what we're saying?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. And those are the only ways that you can are allowed to have your work visa. Either you already have to have a company that's going to be in Mexico that's already guaranteed you a job, or
Uh-huh.
you already have the stuff laid out where you starting your company in Mexico and you have your paperwork to show. I guess what we call them is the business plan. This is what I'm trying to do. This is going to be my business. This is what I'll be doing in Mexico. And then from there you take that
Exactly.
information and give it to the people that
Im
provide the work visas.
Immigration. No.
Immigration handles that. Okay.
Exactly.
So,
Yes. And what happened, for example, that's another situation. We're talking about the majority of
mhm,
our market, which is
right.
applying through economic solvency. But
Hmm.
also, what happened, that Mexico has a lot of international companies here. So,
Yes.
what happened with them? Just imagine a Japanese company. I'm located in Querétaro, so Japanese company or French
Mm,
company. So they are here, they are legally established, they pay their taxes, but they want to hire foreigners. So they need to make a job offer in immigration. So it's like started in a different way. So the
okay.
company says, I'm company A, Japanese, whatever, and I want to offer a job to this person. So we need to present, we also help with that. We need to present a job offer in immigration. This person has been offered a job, this position, salary, certain requirements, and
Mm,
she or he is going to work here in this address in this company. The company needs to be previously registered in immigration to be able to hire expats. And then instead of you presenting the economic solvency at the consulate, they need to present the job offer authorized by immigration at the Mexican consulate.
oh,
So they,
okay.
instead of the 12 months or 6 months, they said, hey, I have a job offer. the company already presented it in Immigration Mexico, and I have been pre-approved. So the Mexican consulate checked everything, and they said, okay, here's your Mexican visa with permission to work. You are allowed to go to the company and work for them. So that's another
Okay.
way of getting a working permit.
Let's see. Okay. So that is very, you know, that process is very interesting that's the way that's still a way that y'all step in to try to help that facilitate that. Um and that those are still exciting ways for people that are like, you have some people that are like, oh, I can't do that now. I still have 15 years and my company is here. Well, can we move that company over there? Is that something you can do there? So to know that those are really people's options and that there's
Exactly.
always a way for them to find a way to still maintain themselves and be successful in Mexico and be, good residents there. And so that's exciting to know. And I see your QR code up there. And I'm going to also make sure I post in my comment
Yes,
section
please.
your information in your WhatsApp so they know exactly how to get in touch with you. Is there anything that you could think of that has like, before I let you go, that has kind of like some of the things that you've seen recently that have been like, these are things that have created a little bit of issue. This is what you want to avoid. This is, make sure you have these things in order so you won't have problems that you've noticed come up more lately.
Basically, as we talked previously, there are different situations for each thing. So I will say
Okay.
just get a facilitator because sometimes you can make a mistake in the process and get it incorrectly, get an incorrect visa. Because I have had expats working that is going to work for a Mexican company and they went through economic solvency. It's like, why you did that? So you need to reach an expert in the area, tell them your situation, your specific situation, and then you will have the proper guidance. That's very, very important because you can make mistakes even without noticing, even without knowing. And also, sometimes the consulate doesn't give the information or the proper information of what happened on the second part in Mexico because they are not very updated. And also, the requirements are changing every now and then. So we as facilitators, we are in immigration every single day and we receive questions and everything. So we know how to handle the new changes or the new requirements and we will guide you. So you had our job is you to be successful in this process because Mexican bureaucracy is complicated. And also you are a foreigner. You don't know how to deal with the bureaucracy in every part of the world. So having a
Right.
guidance, it's very good for you to be successful and take out all the stones on the way and having a smooth process and also having the right process for you.
Right. Well, I thank you so much for taking the time to even go through this process with us so that people know what to expect. And again, for me, I'll see you 30 days before, maybe a little sooner, because I'll be coming in and out. Um, but you are definitely my person and my go-to for when it's time for me to renew all my times, even all the way through my permanent residency, because you made it so easy. And I just have to say the whole process again, I didn't pull my hair out. You really just made it like, oh, that's okay. Just send this, just send that. I have it. And that's what I want people to realize is that there's people there, and especially with host relocation, that held your hand and walked it through to make it just such a I did more time of we went to the nice restaurant, we had a nice meal. Even after, I came out of immigration, she, I we call it lemonade here, but she bought us me a nice lemonade because was hot that day. And she was like, oh, everything is done. And it just all went by so smoothly. And everybody was so friendly from beginning to end even when you were still at the immigration office, when I was trying to get to go that road to go. And I was sending you stuff, and a gentleman came in on the WhatsApp. I think his name was Oscar. And he
Hmm.
was saying, "Oh, she's still at immigration. I'll get that information to her." So your whole team still was very polite and pleasant. And from beginning to end, the whole process, y'all made it so just, I can't say enough about it. Like I told you,
Mm.
I was telling everybody. I was the minute I was telling everybody. So y'all hold a special place in my heart. And so anybody I can tell and put the video out, and co-workers, anything, I've been screaming y'all's names from the rooftop about how wonderful y'all are. So I thank you again, Yvonne, for taking the time to be a part of my Simply Slay Life podcast and to go through the process with us. And I'll see you soon. I'll be definitely keeping in touch, and I
Hmm.
will gladly pass your information on to anybody that asks me. So
Thank you.
thank
Thank
you
you
so
so much,
much.
Rochelle, for your time and for this interview. I'm glad that we can share experiences and best practices to your audience.
Thank you. All right, guys. Thank y'all for watching the Simply Slay Life podcast. Thank you again, Yvonne. And y'all have a great day. Bye.
Bye, adiós,
Bye.
hasta luego.
Hasta luego.
Ujú, bye.
Bye bye.